hopefully acting on the committee's recommendations. This is only the beginning of the process, but we want Ohioans to be aware that we are undertaking this step. We want your participation in the conversation. So I would encourage all Ohioans to certainly share your thoughts with your legislators, share your thoughts with those on the commission, and frankly, let us know what you think we need to be focusing on. As the poll numbers told earlier, most Ohioans understand that locking up more people in and of itself doesn't solve the crime problem. We appreciate your role, and we appreciate your help in facilitating this. We're happy to take a few questions. Who wants to go first?
Senator?
Yes, sir.
The state took a small stab at this with the sentencing reform of 2011, but that's run into some problems. It hasn't done as much as people had hoped. How will this be different than that effort?
Well, one is the nature in which we're undertaking. That was a small step. It was intended to bend the curve down, and it did for a short period of time. It was targeted at allied sanctions and a number of other things, and we had some success with it. This is a holistic review of the entire code. So this is a much broader step. Look, about every 20 years I was told when I first studied criminal law that the legislature should go through and revise the criminal code and take a look at it to make sure it's updated and meets the current standards, that we're still not penalizing somebody for not carrying a lantern in front of their horseless carriage. We're probably a little beyond that, but the answer is it's time for us to take a look at it and do this. So one of the things that was mentioned earlier is other states, Texas. They did this a few years ahead of us, and I was at a national conference of legislators, and they gave all the details, all the statistics about the amount of people we incarcerate and our crime rates compared to other similar situated modern nations. And you know, the crime rate really isn't necessarily related to the number of people we incarcerate. And so one of the things Texas has done is something that we have a similar version of it. The question I asked the task force is, can they do a better job on that diversion programs? Keeping people inside the criminal justice system but not necessarily give them the conviction if they get their life back on track and move them on down the line. Now the problem with diversion programs is you want to make sure that people cooperate and participate. As a former probation officer, if you didn't have a stick, you didn't always get compliance. So I can tell you that this goal is to try and address holistically the entire criminal justice process, particularly the felony.
Senator, it isn't a week go by I don't get a letter or two or three from somebody who are old law inmates or family of old law inmates referring to pre-1996. And Ms. Kerman mentioned parole reform. Will that be a part of this? Could we go back, or could you go back and maybe undo that so those old law people could be up for parole?
Well, look, retroactive application is tough to do. And so the answer is you'll have to ask one of the legal scholars on that. My guess is the answer is it's tough to do things retroactively. This is a prospective approach.
Senator, won't the legalization of marijuana in Ohio help your efforts?
No.
Why not?
Look, marijuana is but one symptom. It's one area, one problem. And, you know, if somebody wants to have a meaningful discussion about the sanctions associated with marijuana, and historical marijuana, that's a different discussion. But the approach that put marijuana enshrined in the drug cartel and the state constitution, I think, is going exactly the wrong direction. And so, you know, my opposition to issue 3 is well known. But the reality is, whenever you think about putting a drug cartel constitutionally protected, it doesn't help the criminal justice system one iota. Frankly, this doesn't do anything with regard to the existing criminal penalties for drug use. Frankly, if you talk to most of our law enforcement folks, I talk to our local sheriff often, upwards of 70 to 80% of the people in his jail are there for drug addiction problems. Now, that doesn't mean they're there because they sold or used drugs. More likely, they're there because they have used their spouse or significant other while they're high on drugs. They rob Walmart to pay for their drug habit, or they did a home invasion. That's the drug problem that marijuana legalization doesn't help at all. And frankly, that's the drug problem we're treating. The number of people that are in prison because, or in jail because they have a joint on them, that's not significant. And if they want to address that population more, I'm happy to do it. But that's like saying, you know, I've got a bloody nose, I think I'll just stick some tissue up there before I find out why I have a bloody nose. And so we're there to fix this problem, but that's different.
Is it possible that the committee might talk about the issue of legalizing marijuana
They can talk, look, I said to the committee, you guys go where you think you need to go. If they need to look at our drug sentences and our drug penalties, certainly that's someplace they can go. I'm not convinced that necessarily is one of the long-term solutions. The legislature will have certainly a say, but I want to make sure we spend more time on the issues that are in front of us. Certainly they can go wherever they want to go.
One more question, and then.
How about somebody on this side of the room?
What's the
Tend to look to the right.
What's the timeline for this committee's work? And you mentioned that it's kind of thinking out of the box. How big or small is that box?
The box is unlimited only by their imagination and experience, and I believe that we have the people who have gravitas and experience on the panel. If you go from state public defender to one of the best prosecutors in the state, you've got a Supreme Court justice, you've got one of the best trial court judges, you've got other people from the process background on the group. And so their imagination is the box. The timeline is pretty straightforward. We've given them some deadlines and some goals. Obviously, if they come to us and say they need more time, we'll give them whatever time they need. But our goal was to have something in place by fall of 2016 for the legislature to consider.
Thank you.